Hi, I'm Rachel Bulman,
Hey, I'm Jason Bulman.
and we're the Bulmans. Thanks so much for coming back to our home this week. It's been a bit of a doozy.
It has.
So there's going to be lots of crying this episode. Just a forewarning.
Forewarning, huh?
Yeah. I am very tired today. We had a bit of an episode over the last couple of weeks where I had to spend some time in the hospital, and not even sure where to start with all of it, other than there was a moment when I couldn't breathe and thought that I was just, having a cold, and then it started to progress until I couldn't get up to go to the restroom. And one of the scariest parts about it all was in the middle of the night, waking Jason up and telling him, I need you to help me get to the restroom. And he's walking me to the bathroom, and I couldn't make it. And our bathroom's probably 10 feet from our bed, if that.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get all the way there. So I threw myself back in the bed. Jason checked my oxygen level at that point, my saturation level, and it was it's like in the 70s.
Yeah.
And I still was so out of it that I don't remember thinking that it was too bad. I just remember thinking that I couldn't breathe. And so the next morning we ended up heading to the hospital.
Thank God that I'm in the medical field and had, I guess, the insight to want to act on things quickly. And fortunately, I know a lot of the providers at the hospital, so we were able to get you in quickly. And
yeah, I can't explain how fortunate. When we say fortunately, there's really no other way to explain that.
Yeah.
And there were people in the waiting room that had been there that couldn't breathe. There were people, that the lady in the bed next to me, that for the few days that I was in the hospital, that had been there for 10 days, that she wasn't sure when she was going to get to go home. She didn't have anyone to care for her when she did get to go home. All of the staff were extremely tired, and it's just a taxing time right now. And I just can't tell you how thankful I was. But there was a moment when we got to the emergency room, because we weren't sure what the protocols were really at the hospital at this point, because it's so fluid, everything's changing all the time. So got to the hospital, and Jason got me out of the car. I'm in the wheelchair. We're getting ready to walk into the ER, and the security guard came out.
Yeah.
And he stopped us at the door, and he just said, he looked at Jason and he said, "You can't go in with her." And I just remember thinking, I can't breathe, and I'm going into the ER, and what if I get in there and I can't breathe, and there's no one to talk for me? There's no one to help me. And I remember just for a split second making eye contact with Jason and thinking, this could be the last time that I see you. I mean, I could walk in here and something happen, or me not be able to find someone to help me breathe, and I could die.
Yeah. That was a pretty surreal moment for me as well. You feel so helpless, It just doesn't feel right to, leave the ones that you love when they're in such a critical health status. So that was exceedingly hard to have to do. But, these are wake-up moments, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the nurse came over to check me in, and she, they're so slam-packed right now. And she checks me in, gets all my stuff, my name and everything, she writes it down. And I just said, "Thank you for checking me in." And I said, "I know that you're working so hard." Because even though I couldn't breathe when I would stand or sit, I could talk. I was just sitting in the wheelchair, and I said, I said, just thank you for what you're doing. And she stopped and she looked at me and she said, no one said thank you to me in 2 years. She said, 2 people have told me thank you in the 2 years that all of this has been going on. Our priest friend, Father Blake, came by to see me in the ER, and he brought me an image of the Divine Mercy and then a rosary that had been blessed from the Holy Land by my spiritual director. And I was laying in this bed and I'm praying with the rosary and just thinking about everyone. and the doctor came in and he said, Rachel, you do what you're doing and I'm going to do what I do and we're going to try to get you home. And he said, your husband is very scared. And he said, but he loves you very much. And he said he just called me and asked me if he was going to lose you today. And he said, but I told him that I wasn't going to let him lose you today. And then he basically went on to say that the moment that I came in was really kind of a deciding factor, that the next 24 hours were going to be either me staying for a couple of days and being able to go home, or me staying there for months, or not being able to leave. So it was really just divine providence that we got to the hospital, that I got right in, that I got the treatment that I needed, and that I was able to get home as quickly as I was. But I still spent a few days there, and it was a big wake-up call.
It was.
And I think that one of the things that I've always said to Jason is that you don't realize how valuable life is until it's taken away, or you watch someone die, or you see someone who's fully alive, someone who's really living. Like, those are the moments when you're like, holy moly, like I could live my life better. I could do better with these moments that are so fleeting. And this has been a moment for us. And since it happened, my heart is so tender that I can't stop crying. So I cry at everything right now. And I don't want to lose that.
I know. Yeah, like the theme that has kind of come about, I think, is gratitude. We're just so thankful now for life in general, and for our life in particular, and our kids and our family, right, and all the gifts. And yeah, there's this clarity that comes with how much time did we waste on silly things, and
right,
and worry and fear and anxiety and things like that.
Yeah, I think we all spend some time thinking about death, especially in the current climate of the world. But I think that we think, well, in light of death and in light of thinking about my own death, I have to get a bunch of stuff done. There's so much to do.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that when I was laying in the hospital bed, not knowing when I was going to get to go home or how long I was going to be there, or if I was going to get to go home at all, that I wasn't thinking to myself, man, I really wish I would have done such and such thing. I wish I would have taken care of Jason's retirement. I wish I would have made sure that the kids knew where things went. I wasn't thinking about task-oriented things. I was thinking about the fact that the last time that I was with every person that means something to me, that I told them that I loved them. And I was just so thankful for that, because I wasn't rushing to call friends of ours, Afterwards, I remember telling Jay, like, what if, like, people are going to be upset that we didn't let them know how bad things got. And I told him, I said, but there wasn't anything else to say.
Yeah. I think that's a refreshing feeling.
It was. I mean, I wasn't rushing to be like, hey, I may die today. There's a lot that I need to tell you. It was more, I may die today. And I said everything that I needed to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is, I think that's a beautiful testament to the way that you've been living your life, that you can say something like that. I think most people do run from their mortality. It occurs to me how many patients that I see that, when the time comes towards their end of their life or towards their loved one's end, it's like it never occurred to them that they were going to die or that their loved one might die. Right. And then you sort of panic.
Right.
You panic, and because death really was never meant from the beginning. It feels so foreign to us as human persons, to the idea of dying,
Right.
And it being all over. So
the other thing is that you're also not called to you look at everything around you and you think to yourself, well, what's the correct posture during a time like this, when everything around us seems kind of chaotic and maybe it seems hopeless, or maybe you're the person that's always an optimist and everything seems hopeful and everything seems like, well, everything's going to get better. And Jason actually read something really beautiful the other day from G.K. Chesterton about that, and what the most realistic thing to do is during those times, during now.
Yeah, I think it could be summarized in that saying where, where there is no love, put love, and you will find love. It's so much better to just live, and what we're called to do in this life, if you've lived any length of time, is to love other people, to love ourselves, to love this world. And that act of loving actually usually precedes a manifestation of real life. Rather than sitting back and sort of detaching yourself from the situation and being a pessimist, criticizing everything, or rather than kind of living in this false reality where you just explain away all the sufferings in the world and pretend it's not happening, the better thing is to accept reality and to just simply love this world as a gift, to love our time as a gift, to love people as a gift. And I think that's what brings peace.
It's true. When I finally got discharged, it happened so fast. It was a Friday morning. The doctor came in. He said, I think you can breathe on your own. I think we're going to let you go home. And I called Jason and I said, hey, I think I'm going to get to go home. And he's like, well, the hospital, it's going to take a while for them to come and get you. It'll be like this afternoon. And I mean, within the next 30 minutes, the nurse came in and was like, hey, you ready to go? And so when Jason picked me up at the hospital, I got in the car in the parking lot, and we literally just sat there for like 10 minutes just holding each other, because we don't do that enough.
Yeah.
And you prayed over us.
Prayed, yeah.
And it was just this moment of, let's not forget this. Mm-hmm. Like, don't forget whatever this is. And then a couple of nights later, I was sitting with Jeremiah on the couch, and this was big because Jeremiah's birthday was right around this time. It was just a couple of days before his birthday, and it was just him and I in the living room. Everybody had left, and I said, Jeremiah, I said, Mommy was really, really sick. And he said, yeah, Mom. He's like, I asked Daddy if you were going to die. And he said, but Daddy told me he wasn't going to let you die. And I told him, thank God for your dad. It's like, because your dad saved my life. And I told him, I said, your dad was so proactive. He knew what to look for. Jason is super level-headed, that even when it's his wife underneath everything, that he was able to say, okay, this is what we need to do. This is what we have to get done. And I said, thank God for your dad. And Jeremiah said, yeah, Dad's pretty great. And then he said, Mommy, what's it like to feel like you might die? What was it like to feel like you were going to die? And I told him, I said, buddy, Mommy is not afraid of dying. And I said, I was afraid of leaving you and leaving your dad and our friends and family, but I'm not afraid of death. And I told him, death is not the worst thing that could happen. And he said, well, Mom, I know that if something happened to you, you've always told us that God would take care of us. He said, and I know that I would just have to remind myself that God would take care of me. And he said, and if something happened to you, we wouldn't be able to have any more babies. And I said, that's true. And he said, but there's so many of us, Mommy, but I think our friends would help us take care of each other, and God would always take care of us. And then just a couple nights later on his birthday, we asked him what was he most thankful for. And he said, I'm thankful that God saved my mom's life. So we're thankful for all of this. And I think that the best practice that we've gotten out of this, other than just trying to live in a spirit of gratitude and to be constantly swept up in the moment, is to look at each other at the end of the day and say, this life is worth living. It's a pretty good one.
It is.
And your life is also worth living. And it's a pretty good one. And every breath that you're taking right now is changing the world. And so we thank you so much for continuing to come back here and spend time with us. And this week has been a doozy. We hope that you'll come back and see what next week has in store. May we take deep breaths and be thankful for every one of them. God bless you.
God bless you.